This is Extraneum, and I know it's pronounced that way because the game shows you. Extraneum is a loving throwback to the early days of first-person shooting. Yes, Doom is a clear inspiration here, but Extraneum, or X as I'll be calling it from now on, takes its cues from other early titles like Wolfenstein 3D and Blake Stone, where level design was strictly on a flat plane and aiming up and down was aspirational for the genre. Recently, X was released into Steam Early Access, and the developer was kind enough to shoot me a code to get my opinions on it, and I was happy to oblige. So today we are once again getting old school and pixelated, to see if this cutesy boomfest belongs in your library. Let's begin. As is the typical with boomer shooters, X will consist of 3 episodes with 8 levels each, and a boatload of secrets, with a boss fight for the final stage. This first episode features the first 8 missions with 7 weapons, or 7 weapons I managed to find, with the full release set to feature 12 weapons along with 12 unique enemies. As stated by the developer, the full version is shooting for a 2023 release. It is currently priced at $11.99, and there is a demo available for those that would prefer to try it out. The setup is that you're a security guard who just landed a job running protection for a top secret project codename Extraneum. As far as our protagonist knows, the project is working on biohacking technology to enhance the human body. Oh yeah, I'm sure nothing will go wrong there. Oh, spoke too soon. While taking a nap, our hero is awoken to utter chaos with the base under attack, and as you might guess, it's now up to them to save the day. Yeah, it is the cliche plot for first-person shooters. You are the sole survivor against an invasion of monsters. But what's refreshing about X is that it takes a more lighthearted approach, with humor that's not overt, but certainly present in the adorable art direction. More on that later. Past the cutesy art style, there's not much of an X factor to X. Where other retro revival shooters might feature the spin of mixing in other genres, or maybe use classic tech, perhaps make the game revolve around one specific movement mechanic, X really is a traditional early 90s corridor shooter. Shoot the guys, unlock the doors, reach the exit. And whether that's a good or bad thing honestly depends on what the player wants out of these types of games. But what I will say is that what's here mechanically is tight, clean, and enjoyable. Shooting has the right amount of pop and speed, and enemies respond to damage in rewarding ways. Weapons are the familiar basic types: machine gun, shotgun, plasma gun, etc. And yeah, it would have been nice if there was a bit more to them, like perhaps some alternate fires. That being said, the weapons all perform as you would hope. They're satisfying to use, and while I had my favorites, there really weren't any duds. I was perfectly comfortable and happy switching between all the weapons throughout the game. The only weapon I feel needs some tweaking is the grenade launcher. Oh, it's an effective tube of boom without a doubt, but I felt the splash damage range was a hair too wide, and unless I was in the widest of spaces, it was a little too easy to accidentally harm myself using this. The other thing is that the trajectory for the grenades is kind of on the wild side, with certain level quirks making them unpredictable and even more dangerous to the player. For example, in this level, the player enters a room where the walls drop down and they are ambushed by a mob of enemies. Now, this is the perfect type of space for the grenade launcher, but there are these floor nubs or steps left behind by the drop walls, and if a grenade hits them, they will be redirected the other way, sometimes back at you. Logically, yes, this does make sense, and I'm sure it's seen as something that adds a little extra challenge, but honestly, it ends up feeling a little janky and cheap. If I had one more nitpick, I wouldn't mind a crosshair. Yeah, X doesn't have the option for a crosshair, and true, the shooters of old often didn't feature crosshairs. However, I don't see the harm in having it as an option. Yes, I did just fine without one in the long run, but there were plenty of unnecessary misses throughout my experience. Level design in X immediately throws you into some sprawling, complicated mazes with tons of nooks and crannies for enemies to hide in, and a bevy of monster closets for ambushes and open spaces for some good old circle strafing fun. The levels are fun to navigate, there's a good flow to them, and they often present some decent navigational brain teasers, as you try to figure out how to reach certain areas. There were a few times I got turned around and lost, but nothing to the extent that it hurt the experience. In truth, like the mechanics, there's not much of an X factor to the level design, opting for maps inspired by the ancient design tomes inked by the Lords of House Id. They held few surprises but garnered few complaints, in terms of the design. But I have to mention, there was this one secret level, and I'm not going to show it on screen for spoiler reasons or get too specific with it, but it poked fun at player expectations for FPS level design conventions. Another way to put it is that you could tell the developer wanted to have some fun and mess with the player a little. I got a kick out of it, and because this was a secret level, it makes this feel all the more special. And the payoff works well because all the levels up to that point are pretty conventional. But I couldn't help but think, man, it would be neat if this sort of creativity and playfulness was applied to more of the main missions in the game. Just throwing that one out there. Speaking of secrets, secrets are practically a mandatory feature for most old school shooters, but a cool thing about X is that secret hunting is actually tied into progression. Secrets are deviously hidden as one might hope, and to deduce their location requires careful studying of the map for clues and some good old-fashioned rubbing up against the wall and hitting E a whole bunch. Secrets reward things like health, ammo, and new weapons, but more importantly, they also reward permanent upgrades for your ammo capacity, health, and armor. Obviously, because of the stat boosts, secrets hold a lot more weight compared to other shooters, and it's wise to search them out. And luckily, searching them out was quite fun, especially seeing how they were hidden, as well as the hidden dangers keeping you from them. They also count towards the game's completion score, for all you completionists out there. Secrets can also reveal data disks. These are required to unlock doors leading to special levels, which is enough to make them important, but they also give the player access to logs, which further flesh out the story. Pretty dang neat for those that like a little lore on the side of their Carnage. In terms of presentation, X goes for a less is more approach, with a simple, chunky sprite art style that's more likely to make you go "aw" than "ha." Enemy designs are lighthearted and whimsical, like big happy squids that turn into little squids, stumpy green aliens who look rather annoyed, and the humanoid enemies with big heads and round eyes. They're adorable. Ah, look at that one. He looks like the Terminator. They kind of remind me a little of Funko Pops, and I'll be honest, once I realized this, I couldn't help but pretend I was playing the Funko Pop FPS, where the Funkos have all gone mad and must be taken down. First they took our shelves, and now they want our world. Anyways, big chunky sprite art like this in shooters isn't always my stein of beer, but I really do dig the art here, and the dev gets a lot of character to come across using very little, which I think represents a lot of skill. I want to compliment the graphical design elements as well, the way messages come onto screen, the art for vending machine menus, and even the 3D overworld map. It's simple, but clean and aesthetically pleasing. In all, there's a lot of really good polish in this game. Where I'm critical is in the look of the environments. Now, the levels do feature the fine sprite artistry of the enemies and weapons, and there are some fun little details throughout. My first problem, though, is that the maps so far are awfully redundant looking. With the exception of a few, many of the maps are essentially labs and warehouses. There's not a lot of variation, and what compounds the redundancy is that for a game that leans more lighthearted and cutesy, there's a shocking lack of color in the world. Neutral colors dominate these levels with the exception of the occasional pool of green acid and purple skies, but even those hits of color look muted. For me, there's just something about a color palette that's mostly white, gray, light blue, and brown that puts me to sleep. Not all the time, there are exceptions, but for the most part, when I see color like this in games, it just zaps my excitement. And I couldn't help but feel the game was clashing with itself artistically, because you have these cartoonish looking enemies and bubbly graphic design elements that suggest a goofier, lighthearted, colorful game, put in places that feel moody and stagnant, as if both things were taken from two very different games. Once again, the sprite art is good here, the details are admirable, and the adorable personality is present, but something needs to pop here. We need an injection of vibrance and variety, and I hope in the future the dev brings more of that to the game, in these levels, but also in the ones to come. I like this game. Extraneum doesn't do a whole lot new or take a whole lot of risks, but what it is a solid, fun little shooter. The shooting is tight, the level's strong with some great secrets, and the visuals are cute, if not lacking some vibrance. If you're looking for a fresh spin on the boomer shooter, then this probably isn't the game for you. But if you just want to play a good old-fashioned corridor shooter like the ones from your youth, or just need something fun to kill an afternoon or evening, then I'd say give this one a shot. Also to remind, there is a demo available for those that are cautious about early access. What are your thoughts on Extraneum? Please let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications on future uploads. It's a couple clicks for you and a massive help for this channel. And don't be shy, come say hi in the Kirk Collects Discord, linked below, and be sure to check out my affiliate links. I'm Kirk, and thank you for watching this video. Stay safe out there.